We're going to be talking about both the Illini who were drafted. That is Kasparas Yakachonis and Will Riley. School history on Wednesday night, shortly after I ended episode 17. I was just in time to be able to watch the both of them then get drafted. First time since 2005 that two Illini basketball players were taken in the first round. That 2005 team was pretty good, if you know anything about Illinois basketball. It also, Kasparas Yakachonis, after he was drafted, became the first one-and-done player in Illinois history. Crazy. What's crazier is that the second player to be a one-and-done in Illinois basketball history was the man taken with the very next pick, and that was Will Riley. So we are going to be talking about both of them, how NBA scouts think they're going to fit in, how I think they're going to fit in, kind of what the roster looks like, how will they have to climb the depth chart. So yeah, let's first talk about Kasparas, as he was taken first. He was selected 20th overall by the Miami Heat last Wednesday. And just yesterday, he actually inked his rookie deal, a 4-year, $17.3 million deal that he signed with the Heat yesterday. He did fall a bit from his projected draft position. I mean, towards the start of the year when he was really cooking for Illinois in the non-conference, he was seen as a potential top 5 pick. By the time the draft rolled around, he was projected like 13 to 16 pick range, somewhere in there. I really thought he was going to go to the Atlanta Hawks. I believe they had 16. But there were tons of trades everywhere. So there were so many trades. So a lot of the draft order got pretty messed up and pretty confusing. So, but I don't think the Hawks ended at 16 because all of those trades they made with the Pelicans and stuff. My big guess to why he fell, again, only a little bit. I mean, he didn't fall crazy. He still went 20th overall. That's not really that big of a slide for him. But it was a bit of a slide. I would guess, to me, the things that drove me crazy towards the end of the basketball season when I started this channel and would talk more basketball than I do now is just a really high turnover rate and a lot of inconsistency, right? He just made a lot of freshman mistakes. Which is something that there's a lot less room for in the NBA than there is in the college game. He just has a really high turnover rate. I do think the pace of the NBA game is going to help him with that turnover rate. The NBA game is slower. It's just a slower game. I mean, the dudes athletically are faster, better, but the game is 8 minutes longer. So the whole game just slows down because of that. So hopefully he just calms down because he really rushed a lot of possessions. And that's what led to most of his turnovers. Like he just immediately dribble into a double team and lose the ball, shockingly. I just personally think, without even factoring in the Heat as a team he's playing for, I just think the NBA in general, I think will help him a bit because the game is slowed down. It's a longer game. So the Heat were 37-45 last year, but they did sneak into that 8 seed. They originally finished 10th in the East, but beat the crap out of my Chicago Bulls and then ended up grabbing the 8 seed in the play-in tournament. And then they were then swept by the Cavs in the first round. So, I mean, they weren't great last year. There was a lot of drama going on in Miami, right, with Jimmy Butler. There's been so many trade rumors about the Heat in recent years, too, that just, like, haven't gone down. So there's definitely a lot of drama they had to deal with. I'm really impressed that they found a way to make the playoffs despite that. I honestly, looking at their depth chart, I'm not quite sure how much he is going to play because the Heat are pretty guard heavy, but I can't imagine that all these guards that are currently on their roster are still going to be on their roster come opening weekend, end of October, right? There's a lot of vets on this roster. They're pretty guard heavy, though, I will say. They don't really have like a star guard, actually. I'd say the closest thing they have to that is Tyler Hero, who would likely be starting at the 1. And then after that, I mean, their other best guard, who I think would be starting at the 2, is Terry Rozier. I do like Terry Rozier, but he's far from a superstar, right? He's a solid guard. They got a lot of other solid guards that will be on the bench. That includes Alec Burks, and he's a veteran. He's 33. You got Josh Christopher, Jaime Jaquez, Davion Mitchell, Drew Smith, Isaiah Stevens, Pele Larson. And Jakob Jonas, right off the bat, just looking at those names, could definitely tell you for a fact that he will be playing more minutes than Drew Smith, Isaiah Stevens, Pele Larson. He will definitely outrank all of them on the depth chart. It is Josh Christopher. He got like a couple minutes. Like he got like 2 minutes a game towards the end of last year. I would think Kasparov would play a little bit more than him as well, just because, again, he's a first-round pick. You know, he just has a little more potential. Alec Burks, Jaime Jaquez, and Davion Mitchell, though. Like, he's not going to get more minutes than any of those guys. We'll see if Jaime Jaquez will probably be there because he's a nice young talent. But I don't know about Alec Burks or Davion Mitchell. They're still involved in a lot of trade rumors. So I would doubt that both of them would still be on the Heat roster. Which then I think would open the door for Jakob Jonas to play with Jaime Jaquez leading the guards on the second unit. There's also a lot of room for they're not that stacked at forward, especially the small forward where some bigger guards can definitely play. Like Jaime Jaquez, Alec Burks can definitely play the 3 coming off the bench if the Heat need them to do that. But anyway, there's definitely a lot. There's a couple different paths for Jakob Jonas to make second unit. I don't want to talk about the Heat so much on an Illinois football channel. But again, just to give you an idea of what he'll be up against at the start of the season, right? And that's what I see for Kasparov. There's definitely paths for him. Right now, he's definitely third unit, and he definitely outranks some guys just right out the gate. But yeah, like I was saying, the Heat are rumored to make a lot of trades still. A lot of them involve Andrew Wiggins. He's a small forward, which again, if he's traded, which right now he's their most likely trade candidate, then that's when I would see Burks or Jaquez shifting to the 3 coming off the bench, then paving the way for Kasparov at the 1 or 2. They did just trade Duncan Robinson yesterday, so there's already a forward out of the way, so their forward depth is lacking even more so. They traded him to the Pistons. But I mean, overall, they just to wrap this up so we can move on to Will Riley, like the Heat is a good landing spot for him, right? The Heat are kind of in a transitional youth period movement right now that they moved on from Jimmy Butler. Their only star really is Bam Adebayo at center, so he's not going to have to compete with him for minutes whatsoever. There's a lot of good veteran guards like Alec Burks and Terry Rozier are great 30-plus-year-old players that he can learn from. And Eric Spoelstra has always found a way to do more with what he has. Like even taking that drama-ridden kind of honestly mess of a Heat team that he had last season and still finding a way to sneak into a playoff spot at least. Very impressive. And between him and Pat Riley, there's just always been a winning culture with the Heat. They're definitely having a bit more of a youth movement. So I do definitely think that Jakob Jonas is going to get some decent minutes. He's going to play a lot, probably start in the summer league for them starting in a few weeks. So, I mean, overall, I think it's a good landing spot for him. I think this is one of the best places in the entire NBA for him to develop right now. Because again, he's got some things he definitely needs to work on. I will not be shy about saying that, but overall, he's incredibly talented, and the Heat see that, and the Heat are definitely going to maximize it. Next is Will Riley. Again, the second ever one and done Illinois player taken the pick after Kasparas Yakachonis. That's just absolutely crazy to me. What a wild stat that is. He was originally drafted by the Utah Jazz, actually, and then was, as many NBA players are, immediately traded to the Washington Wizards, who were just god awful last year. I mean, I don't know. There's no way to sugarcoat that. They were 18-64. I do think they will be better. I don't fully understand what they're doing so far this offseason. This whole NBA offseason has been pretty crazy. I don't know. They kind of went out and acquired some veterans, which between last year's trade deadline or the trade deadline in February, I shouldn't say last year, and then this recent trade, they just traded Jordan Poole for CJ McCollum, which I don't really understand. Like, why? I don't know why we're grabbing some veterans on this team that's nowhere near competing. But there's really not. It's almost the reverse situation that Yakachonis has on the Heat. Is because Riley's a forward, and they're really just like the Heat. There isn't really much forward competition there, especially at the 4, where I would primarily fit the best, because he is 6'8". So, I mean, the likely starter, there's a lot of young guys on the Wizards too, don't get me wrong, but all the young guys are forwards. Like, all the veterans they got are guards, like, except for Chris Middleton, he plays the 3. He's not big enough to play the 4. They got Bilal Coulibaly. That's one of my favorite names in the league right now. And then second would be Kaishan George. And then after that, so I see Riley as third unit at the 4. Is where I would project him filling in, because I don't think there's going to be many roster changes for the Wizards for the rest of this offseason. Unlike the Heat, I think that Jordan Poole move is going to be pretty much it for them. They're not going to do anything to make too much of an impact. But I mean, they have developed young talent pretty well. I mean, even despite last year's disaster, Bub Carrington and Alexander Sarr were 2 first-round picks they had last year, and they both have really solid rookie seasons despite only grabbing 18 wins. Those 2 are definitely going to be starting this year, with Sarr at the 5 and Carrington at the 1 for them. NBA scouts are kind of worried about Riley's defense overall, but he's really, really talented scorer. That's why he rose so high. I wasn't sure if he was even going to go first round. I thought he might be early second round. So I was absolutely elated when they took him at 21. And that's great for him. And again, I think there's a lot of young players on that roster. And there isn't too much in his way. It's other younger guys that definitely aren't cemented in front of him. If he goes off, he's going to start over Coulibaly and George. And Kaishan George is a very similar player to Will Riley, who will likely be at the second unit for them, right? Like, they're similar height, very similar play style. I think that's going to be perfect for Riley to develop, like having a guy like that, like who's only going into his second year as well. Like, he's a young guy. They can definitely bond and develop together because they play the game so similarly. So I think overall, I think it's pretty good. I mean, I don't think anyone, if you called their name, would be like, oh my gosh, yes, the Washington Wizards. But I overall, that's also going to be a good spot for him. Both of them are going to get a lot of minutes in the summer league, Yakachonis and Riley, which is very exciting. It's just really nice to have more first round Illini picks after Terrence Shannon last year and the success that Terrence Shannon had in Minnesota this year, which we've also talked about on this channel in the past. You can go check out that video I made about Terrence Shannon, like probably about like a month ago at this point. But yeah, overall, both guys are on teams that have a lot of other young players and have developed those young players well recently. So I definitely think Yakachonis is going to get pretty good minutes. Riley, maybe not, but again, this is a Wizards team that could be selling partway through the year, and that would open up some space for him. So yeah, those are my thoughts on that. I mean, let me know in the comments if you have any other opinions about Will Riley to the Wizards or Kasparas Yakachonis to the Heat. Let's hope they tear it up between them, Terrence Shannon, Ayo DeSumo on the Bulls. There's plenty of Illini players in the NBA now. It's a really good feeling. But we are going to move on to the gridiron because, oh my gosh, we only got like 10 minutes left now.